friends. So today I'm going to be doing kind of a really big book haul. I have been acquiring books. I have some to show the class and they're pretty varied. I've been mostly getting them off of the used books on Amazon, but I also actually went into a physical store and bought one for full retail price. This never happens to me, and there's a tiny sort of inkling of a story there, so I will tell you that. We have about 18 books here, so let's just get into it. Okay, so the very first book we have here was kindly sent to me by the people over at Raincoast Books, which is a Canadian publishing house. They were nice enough to send it to me, but it is the new edition of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander. Okay, J.K. Rowling wrote it. She wrote it for charity back in the day. I have another edition of it, but this one's so cute and it's just like green and look. This reminds me of my dog.
Her booty got swag, her booty got swag, her booty got swag, her booty got swag. Now dip it down, then roll with it. Now dip it down, then roll.
But essentially, this is just the new hardcover version of the Hogwarts Library collection. There's also the Tales of Beetle the Bard and Quidditch Through the Ages, but I do not have those. But I think I want to buy them because this edition's so cool. Like this, there's illustrations in this one, and in the other one there's not really. Drop caps, illustrations, additions that like add on to the movie, so if you watch the movie and you loved it, you'll probably get a huge kick out of this book. So next year, I just will quickly show you, I got 4 different books about diabetes because I have diabetes. 2 of them are from my mom and 2 of them are from my dad. So that's cool. I didn't buy them. So just like a slow cooker recipe, diabetes for Canadians for Dummies, Think Like a Pancreas, Practical Guide to Managing Diabetes with Insulin, and Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution, The Complete Guide to Achieving Normal Blood Sugars by Dr. Richard Bernstein. Yeah, I have type 1 diabetes, I have an insulin pump. Like I've said, for the past while I've been having some health problems, so I've just been having problems regulating my blood sugar. I like recently got an insulin pump. It's kind of weird, but it has been helping, but I've been still kind of struggling with it a little bit. So I got these to hopefully get that under control. So the next one I got, it also has to do with diabetes, but it's more interesting than the other ones. The other ones are boring. So the next one is Breakthrough. Elizabeth Hughes, The Discovery of Insulin and the Making of a Medical Miracle by Tia Cooper and Arthur Ainsberg. So this is just like all about how insulin became a thing, and the story follows a couple of different diabetics like back in the 20s. And it's like, back then, if you had diabetes, there was a death sentence. You essentially went on a starvation diet until you died. So things are better now, but so I really don't know too much about like the history of insulin, which I should because I like history and obviously I'm a fan of insulin. It's just kind of like a nonfiction look at some people in the past that like right when insulin was created, like the before, during, and after, like what happened to their lives and like how the creation and discovery of insulin changed tons and tons of lives, and I just thought it was interesting, so I got this off Amazon in used books. So next here we have The Rise and Fall of Alexandria, The Birthplace of the Modern Mind by Justin Pollard and Howard Reed. This, it's kind of a weird buy for me, I'll be honest. Like I like nonfiction, but this one's like a super nonfiction history book. I think on the books subreddit, a lot of people were talking about Alexandria, like the Great Library of Alexandria, and how freaking dope it was, and the destruction. It seemed interesting, and there's really not a ton of books out there about it, but apparently this is like one of the best ones to read if you want to know more. But essentially it just kind of talks about Alexandria and what they discovered and like what sort of happened. Wanted to learn more about the Library of Alexandria, so I like googled lists of like best books about Alexandria, and this was like one of the ones that everyone was like, you gotta read this one, it's got real good stuff in it and it's interesting. So I bought it, and it's super dinged up, but I'm gonna read it, and then I think I'm gonna lend it to my grandpa because I feel he would like it after, and yeah. Next here we have Black Widow Forever Red by Margaret Stoll. This, of course, is about the Marvel hero Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. You know, if you've seen the Avengers movies, you know, you understand. But okay, the problem with this book and I haven't even started reading it, but I know that there's a problem, is like I was under the impression that this was a book all about Natasha Romanoff, but apparently it's about some random girl who interacts with Natasha Romanoff at like the place where in Russia where she trained to be Black Widow, you know, the human weapon. Ava Orlova, that is who the real protagonist of this book is, but it's got super great reviews, so I'm still gonna read it because I do love Black Widow. She needs a movie like of her own, but it's just like an action thrillery book about murder. Not really murder, but about like spy, espionage in the Marvel universe, and I guess Ava almost acts as like a self-insert. If you guys read fanfiction, you're aware like a self-insert is just like a sort of blank character where the main character can get into the world in like a realistic way and like live out their bookish fantasies. So that's like the vibe that I'm getting. So Ava Orlova is like you, and you're kind of like going through this world like, oh my god, I'm gonna be a spy and it's Russia. Kind of the vibe I'm getting. If you've read this, please let me know. I'm gonna read it for sure. But if it's called Black Widow, it should be mostly about Black Widow. That's just what I've heard though. If I'm wrong, please tell me because that would make my day. But alas. So next year I got Map of Fates by Maggie Hall, and this is the second book in the Conspiracy of Us trilogy. I think it's gonna be a trilogy, but okay. So I just read Conspiracy of Us really recently. It was so good. Like, it was so ridiculously good. The cover, super tacky, not a fan. Same with this one. I think the cover is just terrible, and it has, I don't know, it doesn't really portray the story like at all. It's like a worldwide like espionage, kind of Illuminati, there's a group of families that run the world sort of thing. And so the first book was so good, as soon as I finished it, I got this one, and the third book is coming out really soon, so I'm definitely gonna get it as soon as I finish this book, which I need to do. But so this main girl, she finds out that her like estranged father, who she doesn't know who he is actually like in one of these like main families that like run the world, girls. So she just kind of gets thrown into this world where everyone wants to kill her, because that's obviously what happens when your family rules the world. It's super also like the Da Vinci Code, and that we are jet setting like around Europe essentially. Like we start in America, then we go to like London, we go to Prague, like just kind of go all over, and it's really interesting, and I thought it was just like such a fun, fast-paced story. But yeah, it's so good, and I was so excited to get it, and I just really want to read it before the third and final one comes out, so hey. So next here we have Updrift by Erin Stevens, and this one was actually sent to me by the author, by Erin, and it's essentially like a mermaid story. She signed it to Sarah with warmest wishes to Erin Stevens, and it came with this adorable little handmade bookmark, as well as this cool like picture that's just like promotional stuff for the book. Apparently this is just like a paranormal romance having to do with mermaids or mermen. I'm not 100% sure about the plot. I also didn't want to just like look up spoilers or anything. We have the main character whose dad dies and her life is thrown into turmoil, and then this mysterious guy shows up and it's just kind of like, what's happening? And then there's mermaids. So I'm so excited to read this one. Thank you, Erin, for sending it to me. And a bunch of people that I know have read it and loved it. Like, it's blurbed by Benjamin of Tomes, Casey Ann Books, Cozy Reads. I love mermaid things, so I know I'm gonna like love this because it's a mermaid book. But yeah, so next year we have something that I got in the mail on Friday, and I read it as soon as I got it, and that is Kindred Spirits by Rainbow Rowell. But this was a little tiny short story that she wrote for World Book Day, I think it was. And essentially it's a short story about a girl who is obsessed with Star Wars, and she camps out in front of the theater in order to see the newest Star Wars movie. It's not stated, but it is The Force Awakens. And she befriends the two other people in. But yeah, so go buy this book because it is so cute, and I'm so glad that I got it because I love Star Wars, so I love this book. Next here we have Beowulf by Seamus Heaney, and essentially it's just Beowulf. I found this in my local used bookstore, and I have credit there, so I only spent like $3 on it. But so it has the original, and then it has the translation, and I just wanted a copy of Beowulf and I saw it and I was like, great! Next here we have the Penguin Book of Norse Myths, Gods of the Viking by Kevin Crossley Holland. I'm working on a novel set in the Viking area. It starts in Sweden and then we go to Denmark. I was looking online like for information about gods, but I really wanted like physical copies of all of the myths just because I find it so much better to be able to make notes or like tab things as a physical book rather than doing it online. So I bought this, and I also bought the Prose Edda and the Elder Edda, but they actually got lost in the mail. This is just like different like anecdotes about the different Norse myths with the Norse gods and the universe and the creation and death and all of the things you should know. So this is one of those like really basic fundamental books if you want to read about Vikings. I think it was originally published in the 80s as this terrible hardcover book, and then Penguin has made it better. This is one of those like really core books just like about making sure you have a good grasp of information, because as someone who really has nothing to do with Norse culture, and I'm not Scandinavian, I'm super Canadian, I want to make sure that I am doing this culture and these people and these stories justice, so I need to make sure that everything is good. So I'm buying all of the books that have to do with all of the myths so that I have a fully well-rounded knowledge of all of the stuff. So lastly, for the Norse books that I've purchased in the past little while, this is the Saga of the Volsungs. This is just another one of those really good stories to have, and honestly I bought it for the cover as well, because look at this whole series of Penguin Norse myths. So good. That's the one that my Prose Edda is in. So, and it says on the front, classics that inspired J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. And this is true. So next here we have The Royal We by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan. That's a terrible name. This is fan fiction about Kate and William's marriage, essentially. And I'm totally okay with that. I love the whole stuff surrounding royal weddings. As a Canadian person, we're very British even though we're not. So there's a lot of like, we just get a lot of information about like the royal family, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. This is about a lady named Rebecca who gets engaged and gets married to the crown prince. This is apparently just like a really fun story. It's kind of like I said earlier, fan fiction about Kate and William's marriage, and it's huge. It's way bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's like 440 pages long, but I have just heard a lot of really good stuff about it, and it seems like one of those really adorable, fun stories that's just like odd but good, you know? You know what I mean? Like one of those like happy-go-lucky, almost contemporary, but so outlandish. It's like a fantasy story sort of things. So, up my alley. Next here we have Dreamer's Pool by Juliette Marillier. And I've wanted this book for so long, and I finally found it on Book Outlet, actually. This cover, it's so different. It's like one of those like kind of old school fantasy covers that's illustrated from what looks like paint or pencils, like pencil crayons or something. I'm not quite sure. It's gorgeous, and it's just like I was so drawn to the cover. I've just heard so many people talk about Juliette Marillier and how awesome she is at fantasy, but essentially this is about a prince who goes to this lady for help with a problem, and they go on a magical adventure to solve said problem, and it's a trilogy, I want to say. Maybe it's a series, I'm not quite sure. Okay, so lastly I have 4 books, and they are all having to do with Beauty and the Beast. So here, I'll just go one at a time, but clearly the movie had a very big impact. So we're gonna start with Lost in a Book. I have a bit of a story about this one. So I didn't get to see Beauty and the Beast when it first came out. I was really sick, and then it was like end of term, so I couldn't justify driving an hour there and an hour back because there's no really movie theater where I live. I saw the movie like 2-3 weeks ago. I loved it. It was so good. It was like A+, except for the little niggly bit about Emma Watson and Emma Thompson's singing. which was kind of auto-tuned, but besides that, it was so good. But then as soon as I walked out of the theater, I was like, okay, we are going to the Borders that's in the mall, and I'm gonna go buy this book, because this book was on my radar, but I didn't really understand the concept of the book when I read it, because I hadn't seen the movie. There's a magical mirror in the movie that they talk about. I don't really think that's a spoiler. So on the back, it's just like, Hidden in the Beast's library is a very mysterious book. Belle is about to discover it and visit a fascinating new world. Is it everything that it seems? How will Belle be able to find her way home, or will the story take hold of her and never let her go? So essentially, Belle goes through this magical book and gets put into some situation, and she has to escape, and I think that's super fascinating, and this book has really good reviews. So, and also the book is the color of Belle's dress. So I walked out of that movie theater, walked into Borders. It was like right at the front of the store, like they were just closing as I walked in. I was that person, I'm sorry. They had like 10 minutes until it was closing, but like everything was like put away and they were vacuuming, and I was like buying it. And so I went up to the till and she was like, oh, did you just see the movie? And I was like, oh yeah. And the girl was like, oh, yeah, the reviews on Goodreads are amazing. Like our coworker saw it like saw the movie 5 times, and I was like, I know, I saw it on Goodreads too, and we bonded over Goodreads. It was great. And so I bought this book because I'm living life, and I was feeling Beauty and the Beast so hard I needed it in my life, so I bought it. Next year we have this Beauty and the Beast novelization. It doesn't actually say who wrote it on here. It does on Goodreads though. I'll have to go take a look. This is like $8 on Amazon, so I just bought it. But it's just like apparently a really great short read. It's just the movie but in book form, and I needed it, and I haven't read it yet, but I want to read it in like a week or so after, or like a week or 2 or so, just so I can like get some distance between seeing the movie and reading this book, so I can like relive all the feels again, because Beauty and the Beast has always been my favorite Disney movie, and now I'm just like riding this high super hard, you know? So after I bought that, there was nothing stopping me from then going on and getting Belle's Library, which has a foreword by Linda Wolverton, and I'm pretty sure she was like the executive producer or something. Essentially, this is a gorgeous little book. In the time period that Belle would have lived, these are the books that she would have had access to, so it's just like really aesthetic, like bookstagrammy sort of things, and it's just adorable quotes and then like fake little notes that Belle has written about people in her life, like Gaston and the Beast and like her dad and her mom, and I just think it's just an adorable, darling little book, and it was super cheap, so I was like, I need this in my life because I love books and I love Beauty and the Beast and aesthetics. Okay, so the last thing is actually one of the cooler ones. So I have a long-standing love for the company Mina Lima. They do the visual art for all the Harry Potter movies and the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them movies. Essentially, they're amazing. They have this cool retro vintagey style, and they come out with things like this, Beauty and the Beast by Gabrielle Suzanne Barbeau, Dave Villeneuve. Yes, I took French class for like 7 years. No, I didn't retain any of it. Sorry, French people. But so, essentially, this is just like the classic tale of Beauty and the Beast with the Mina Lima spin on things. They have interactive elements in all of their books. So far they only have 3 out. They have Peter Pan, The Jungle Book, and now Beauty and the Beast. And I own all 3 because I am a sucker for these books. Here, I'm trying to like not wreck it. So we have things that fold out, like Map of the Rich City. What's the rich city? I'm gonna have to read to find out. As you're reading, things will come out that are like relevant, like whatever this thing is. I don't know. Can you even see this? Things that like spin. Wow, the lavish and never-ending wardrobes of beauty. There's stuff like this. And stuff like this. This is really difficult to do not on the table. And like stuff like this. So, oh shoot, cool. Essentially, it's just gorgeous frickin' books that help me feed my addiction of book buying / hoarding. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments about any of the books that I've gotten, please leave them below. And thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Sarah, and I will see you guys later.